Hello, and welcome to the LawCast, brought to you by the Law Factory, who provide a tailored and comprehensive legal account service for solicitors and their firms. The LawCast is where we discuss legal news, changes within the legal profession, and provide tips, tricks, and recommendations to help you run your firm.
Hello and welcome to the LawCast. This is LawCast episode 4, would you believe? We're on episode 4 already, and I am really lucky today to be joined by two guests. Today we have Sophie from SAS Consultancy, and we have Jason Sammon, who's the Technical Director of FL1 Solutions. So how are you both? How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Great stuff. Sophie, perhaps you'd be able to sort of just tell our listeners a little bit of who you are and where you come from and all that kind of thing.
It sounds like you're kind of introducing Blind Date or something.
It's a bit syllable-black, isn't it? It's a bit syllable-black.
If you were an animal, what animal would you be?
Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm from Bristol. And so I set up, it's just me with SAS Consultancy, and I provide marketing solutions, predominantly online marketing. But I've kind of get brought into sort of various other aspects of marketing as well within businesses. And my background is in PA, being a PA for 9 years. So I like to kind of dip my hand in with sort of like admin related kind of office-y things as well. And I also run a film festival called the RS Film Fest. So with a sort of TV film acting background. So this is like right up my street. I'm loving this kind of whole being on screen and podcasting.
Excellent. Really great to have you here, Sophie. Thanks for joining us. And Jason, who are you and where do you come from? We've got to stick with you, really.
not Bristol, originally the Isle of Wight, but my name is Jason Sammon. So I run an agency called FL1 Digital. So my background, I guess, is in software development. So I started working in the financial sector back in the day, just before the dot-com bubble, then ended up moving up to London, working on large software platforms in company secretarial work. And then really we started FL1 Digital in 2004. God, that's a long time ago, a little bit by accident, if I'm honest. And we started off doing a lot of custom software development. Like we obviously built LawSlip, didn't we?
Yes.
And I guess over the years, we've kind of ended up doing a bit more. We do a lot of progressive web apps, mobile apps, that kind of stuff. But the core, I guess, we do is website development and design as well. So e-commerce, do a lot of estate agency websites. We build websites for lawyers and the legal sector too. We're kind of fairly general. And more recently, I guess, off my side hustles, which is doing filming and editing and audio production, we've started doing a bit more of that because it's just fun, if I'm honest. And I think everything's definitely becoming a lot more video centric, especially looking at Instagram and Facebook and YouTube Shorts and stuff. So that's kind of my background.
Oh, great! Well, really great to have you. And we all go sort of way back. Law Factory's known Jason for many years, probably not far off when you started in 2004. It would have been 2000, around 2006. Yeah, and then Sophie, we've known each other for 3 years now, 4 years.
8 years, yeah.
Yeah. So we're sort of we're all like friends of a family, if you like, yes, we'll work together on various things. So Sophie, in fact, deals with all of the editing of the LawCast itself, and she gets involved and deals with all the videos there. And in the most recent episode, episode 3 that we did with Karen Edwards, Jason very kindly helped us out with some of the audio on that one as well. And I dare say he'll be helping us out with future episodes and getting that sort of audio mastering done, just to make it all nice and shiny for our viewers and listeners, which would be lovely. Yeah. So just diving straight in then, as usual with the LawCast, we tend to do a little bit of a news segment. We go through some sort of articles that, frankly, I just find interesting, and I'm hoping it is relatable to the guests that we have on, so we can have a bit of a chit chat. And one of the articles that I found recently, which I thought was quite interesting, was actually from not a legal one, really, specifically, not specifically legal, but does relate to legal. It actually came from Computer Weekly's basically put an article out, and they've done some research, and I think a fair amount of people have done some research. I think banks have got involved in this as well, and they're saying that UK small and medium enterprises are starting to invest a lot more of their annual turnover in tech and website design and things like that, and sort of investing in new technology to try and put themselves out there. Have you guys sort of heard about this? Have you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I read that article. So they mentioned the mooted between 44 and 48% of the turnover, which
Seems
I thought was
a lot.
staggering figure.
It does seem
an
a lot.
awful lot to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so, but then tech is such a broad thing, isn't it? That could do anything from sort of like software tools you're using, hardware. It could go right way down to your mobile phones you're using, security devices, all sorts of things, really. No, I was quite staggered. I'm surprised in that. I mean, have I seen this? One thing I have seen a lot, so over the last couple of years, there are more grants around. Certainly off the back of COVID, more sort of grants related to digital services, marketing, that kind of stuff, sort of regeneration grants after COVID, that kind of thing. I would imagine maybe some of that's got quite a factor in it. And also, I think, would that also take into account that an awful lot of businesses, especially over COVID, had bounce back loans and things like that, and again, leverage grants? So would that skew the figure slightly? Because we've seen a lot of that over the last couple of years. Certainly in 2020 and 2021, I had a lot of people, I'm going to have a new website. I didn't need a new website. I really want one. But if I'm getting paid for it, I may as well. So there was a bit of that with it.
Yeah, I think also as well, like I think more people are kind of actually recognizing that they need to kind of move with the times and keep up with other businesses that have been, you know, having these sort of really good fancy websites for years now. And then I think a lot of businesses were trying to do their own websites, and then all of a sudden kind of seeing, well, actually they're not kind of performing like as well as they should be. So I think technology is great. I think it streamlines things. I think it speeds up processes. And I think businesses can work kind of more efficiently and effectively when they use the right technology and the right tools. But I think they also need the experts that come along with that, because they need the experts and the people who know what they're doing to implement them and to manage it going forward as well. Because it's great, but then as we all know, when technology goes wrong or you don't understand what you're doing with it, you need somebody else who does to help make it work.
I suppose it can also, I suppose it could also go the other way, couldn't it? Because you could spend a load, like you say, you spend a load of money on technology and you get it all in. You've got no real idea how it works. You kind of end up blagging it a bit, and you lose so much in efficiency by trying to wing it and just figure out how it works that you end up actually going backwards and you're more inefficient than less efficient than you were before. So yeah, I completely understand that point, definitely.
Do you know what I also think? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, carry on, Sophie.
I was going to say that I think like technology, I think there's also this thing around it, as in it's also isolating the older generation somewhat as well, because I think more people are working for longer and the technology's coming in, but they've not been brought up with this technology either. So I think there's also like this training issue around, you know, making sure that everybody knows what it's for and how it's used, why it's there, because like I think, yeah, like I said, with more people working until they're older and sort of having to use this technology, it's a bit of a scary world really for them. And I think with more people staying in control of their businesses, or you know, at the top of the ladder for longer as they're working into older age, I think it's encouraging them as well to sort of embrace the change and move with the times and see it as a good thing as well.
Yeah. So Alex, actually, I mean, you're as well entrenched in this as well, right? So I mean, I suppose the other thing, especially in the legal sector, is using, I mean, say for example, in my sector, we might be talking about CRM, so customer relationship management systems, which that's much more standardized than it was. There's so many more options. I guess you've got, again, industry specific CRMs and case management systems, like for example, Osprey. Are you still working with those guys?
Yeah, we work with loads of different software companies. Osprey is still one of them. We find that there's a lot on the market. There's a lot of new ones on the market as well, to be fair, because once again we're seeing a cycle of smaller legacy practices being bought out. In fact, some of the bigger ones are being bought out as well now, and then are being absorbed into the likes of, you know, things like Leap, like Practice Evolve, like certain larger companies sort of buying these out. So we work with loads of different ones. The key with legal is getting the right one for the firm, and that kind of sounds really obvious, but you know, it's not the kind of sector where you can just plug in a Sage and hope for the best. Like, you can't do that. It's first of all, it's not compliant to do with the kind of work that they do, and secondly, it just wouldn't work from a case management perspective and looking after your clients. So I always say, it's really important to really make the effort to research lots of different ones, and really get under the skin of the tech and learn it before you buy it. Because it's because what happens with technology, you ask for a demo and a guy comes in and they show you it and it's like, it's perfect.
It's all shiny and wonderful. Yeah.
Everything is enabled. Everything works. It is absolutely perfect. And you sit there, regardless of which one it is, you sit there and go, oh man, this is amazing. I've got to buy it. Whereas in actual fact, you need to go and see a load of those first and then see what really applies to your firm and how you work. And then you say, well, okay, this one works best for us. Is it gonna fix the problems that you're currently having? That's really key as well. Like, look at why are you changing? First of all, is it because you don't like the software? Is it because software is deficient in some way? Is it that some piece of software do things better? So you need to kind of like decide and find one that actually is going to do do the job better than the last one.
But that never happens though, because in reality, as you say, smart sleeping business development manager comes along, because sales is a dirty word these days. We don't use that word anymore. Shows you this funky bit of software and you look at it and it's got lots of shiny things and looks great. And the other things, of course, is quite often the people who are going to be using it, the administrators or the people on the ground, are not normally that involved in the process, or they're too busy to have a look at it, sort of thing. So it's quite often, as you say, an IT support or something like that goes, that seems to tick all the boxes. Put it in, someone starts using it and goes, this is just, because as you say, they're going to be using this day in, day out, every day. It's got to work. I see this all the time with estate agency, because it's the same thing. They've got CRMs for different property. There's a whole ton of them. All the time we get asked to just flip a feed over, and you're saying you can't just flip a feed over. It's like at least 4 or 5 days work. You get a whole integration piece to do around it. Then they use it and go, oh, I didn't like that. It doesn't do what the bloke said it did. And you said, well, if you'd have taken the time to have a look at it, you could have realised that. But of course, people don't take that time, do they? They just assume.
I was just going to say about giving yourself the time, because I had it recently. So in a different sector altogether. So like the restaurant sector, one of my clients, and they had somebody come in to build them a website. And then they had like a booking, like a reservation system, but they've not kind of planned this out. They've not put it as part of their almost like a business plan together, thinking, right, how long is it going to take to sort of research various different sort of reservation tools, for example, or booking systems that we can use? Is that going to work with our website? Can we implement it? Do the staff know how to use it? Do they know how to sort of like, is it going to be customer friendly? Like, is it going to be easy for the customers to use? But they left that bit to the very last minute. Right, we need something. Right, well, this looks brilliant. This demo we've had is amazing. It's the only company that they actually looked at who did a demo for them, and it didn't work. It was so hard to use. They couldn't split it out and they couldn't tailor it to their business. And then sort of we had to like come out of it and be like, right, we need to research this. And then obviously then that set them back, because customers weren't able to book in, and and staff couldn't use it. And we've gone with something else now. But it was sort of,
I've seen some of the things. We ended up using Cloud Waitress in the end, which was a little bit of an unknown one from Australia, but I've plumbed that in a couple of places. Really, really good. But again, they've got very set rules about ordering, and it's whether you can work with those or not.
Yeah, and it is dependent on each business, isn't it? And like what works for the business, and what's gonna be good. And
there is no. I'm a strong believer in that there is no one size fits all when it comes to, certainly when it comes to client and case management systems. There just isn't. You have to be selective, and it is subjective depending on who you are and what you do. And I'm a big advocate for get your staff involved. Because if you've got 20 staff, you can't just make it. As a business owner or senior partner or whatever, you have the right to make the decision for them, right? But it's much harder for you to just drop something on them and say, right, here's a new piece of software, we're using that from like next month, and they say what? You basically uprooting everything that they've learned and chucking it out. So you got to get them involved and got to get them on the board, and you've got to kind of like sell them on it before you start. And when I say sell them on it, it's the idea of change is the thing that you should be selling if it is going to benefit the company rather
Nobody likes change.
than selling a piece of software itself. You follow me? So really, it should be like, look, we need to change because this, and this. You have a discussion about it. Everybody agrees, okay, we need to change. Great. That's the hardest bit done. Then it's a case of choosing the right kit. And that then is, right, it's your job as a co-founder, as a cashier, as a partner, owner, whatever. You've got to go and research it and give them options and say, right, we think these are the 3 or 4 best options we've got. These are the reasons why. Can you guys, have a look at it and see what you guys think and whatever. Now, I'm not suggesting it needs to be just this massive open democracy about everything and it be, but
there needs to be some discussion. I think you're absolutely on the money.
Discussion
you plant the seed of change first before you just, sledgehammer it all the way through.
Yeah, exactly that. And then that way you're in a situation where people, before they start with it, they do feel somewhat familiar with it and they do feel like they've had an opportunity to make their point about certain things. And also it's advisory to the business owner as well, because if you're a senior partner, you might be a senior partner and your specialism is, I don't know, crime, right? But you've got an entire family department which isn't your specialty. If you just go off and choose a piece of software that you think works, you might not necessarily consider the needs of your family department, and your family department might come to you and say, well, hang on a minute, this isn't going to work for us. So they need to be able to just say, oh, ask the question, does it do this? Does it do that? Does it do the other? Is it going to be an improvement on this? And if it is, then that's great. And you're halfway there then, really, in my view.
Yeah.
I think staff involvement is so important. It's like, because I saw it in my old job before, and you'd get the chief exec would be like, right, we're using this. And then you've got all these staff who are like, hang on, yeah, but you've never used that in your life. We're the ones that use it day in, day out. So surely our feedback is important, and we'll know kind of whether it's going to work or not. But ultimately, the owner does have the decision. But I think, involving staff and getting their buy-in as soon as you can.
People like to feel listened to.
Yeah, and like you said, explaining why you're making that change is such an important thing, because they're going to be like, oh yeah, well, we get it, that makes sense, and it's just going to be a lot easier to make that transition.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fundamental respect, though, isn't it? If people feel listened to and valued, you'll get more out of it, whereas you shoehorn it in there.
Yeah.
So one thing I've noticed more generally is that until fairly recently, if people come to us with a website, it was all about the website. It's all about attracting business and looking great or looking better than Blogs and Co down the road, or whatever the motivation is. And I think what I'm seeing a lot more now is, and certainly I'm talking to people a lot more about the idea of, all right, there's that side of things, but you've got this thing online. You can actually make it more of a kind of a utility for the business as well. So by that I mean, for example, you can put onboarding forms on there. You can put secure areas where people log in to get their notes. You can put things like live chat, which is a productivity tool that saves all the phone calls. People go onto your website and go, oh, can you call me back, please? These are all things that kind of, they're tools, I think, utility communication tools. I mean, that's just an example. Or, again, secure areas where people can download information. These are not necessarily sales tools, but they help augment. I mean, certainly with my business, I find I write a lot of blog articles. So if someone's asking me the same thing, so say, for example, I get asked all the time about Google Maps has broken on my website. Now, I know why it's broken. It's not a bug. It's because Google Maps wants you to set up a billing account, and it wants to know that if you're suddenly getting thousands of hits looking at maps, who do we pass the bill on to? So I've started kind of even putting that into short form videos, because it's the sort of stuff that I can then send people to the website, and it saves me a 30-minute conversation over and over and over again. So, and I'm finding more and more businesses are taking on that kind of idea. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's good to have a knowledge hub. And I know that the Law Factory, we're in the process of developing our site and talking about it and all that kind of stuff, and deciding what kind of things we want to be on it. It's a bit like the LawCast, really. It's a knowledge thing, and but I actually do videos for our staff for training and stuff like that in-house. For a similar reason. Now, don't get me wrong, nothing beats sitting right next to a person and training them or whatever. But this is something that we learned from the COVID period as well. So, well, I can't sit right next to these people and go through all this stuff. So I'll do a 20-minute video on it of how to do this, and I will put in a screen share So it'll be a little video of me up in the corner in my screen going through exactly how you do a thing.
It's a quick way to do it, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really efficient,
Really
and having that kind of like knowledge hub on your website, I think, is really, really great. And if you've got a simple like question, like like you frequently asked questions, that kind of thing, like with you, Jason, I imagine there's plenty of people that say, can we put a card payment thing on our website? I bet that's a straight away, that's it for you. You know how to do that, like that.
Same thing over and over again.
Same. So you just bang that in a 10-minute video, 5-minute video, however long it is, and then stick on a website. Becomes part of your FAQ.
So thanks for that. I'm just making a note.
So here's a question for you then, which I think then, like you mentioned about sort of going on to a topic of AI and things. How then do you feel about spending time doing that video and like, for your staff or for your kind of clients, people who are going to go on your website as a human? Because, I personally I'm sure there'll be a debate about this, but like, how do you then feel about AI taking over and being like, just being able to type in a sentence saying, right, create me a video on this, this, and this, and then like an AI person and sort of like, creating an AI video?
Well, I think you could do. I was thinking a step before that. This is something I'll start working on at the moment, and I'm sort of about halfway there. I know how to do it. I just haven't had time to finish it. Taking a step back, what if you got a situation where you've got a hub on your website, you've got lots of sort of like useful articles about the sort of basic stuff that you get asked that kind of give you most of the answer. And why couldn't we then set up a little AI bot on your website that crawls that, so that when someone goes onto a chat bot and says, okay, what are my rights as a dad if I get divorced? And it will then start to feed the answers based on the article that you've written on your website. I mean, that could be maybe one way to utilize it. But in terms of, actually just generating a video, I guess it's possible, isn't it? But I mean, ultimately, the law sector is down to whether the advice is actually right, isn't it? So I think you're still going to have that situation where someone's going to have to look at it and go, that's nearly right, but not quite. Yeah. And potentially use someone like our skills to go in and then edit it and doctor it.
Well, I heard that on the radio this morning.
That's actually really saved you any time.
I heard it on the radio this morning, right? It's really odd that we're talking about this because this came up like I was driving the kids to school this morning and I had the radio on there talking about it, and they said that there's a lot of people at the moment which are putting out YouTube content which is getting huge amounts of hits, but it's completely AI generated, based on a question, a prompt essentially. So someone has gone, do me a YouTube video on this, and it's gone off and it's done it. And what was it? One of the ones was something like they were talking about the pyramids. And then and it sounds really like convincing. The way that it speaks sounds really sort of authoritative. And it said something along the lines of, in this pyramid, when the stones when the stones move and there's enough pressure on the stones, it generates electricity, right? Like, it's complete nonsense, utter nonsense. Anyway, so then they went to these kids, like, because the kids are watching this, right? And they showed the video to the kids, and the kids,
I've seen them,
without a prompt, they said to the kids, what do you think about this? And the kids like, I had no idea. It's amazing, isn't it? Like, with just that bit of pressure creates that electricity. I didn't even know pyramids could create electricity like that. And I'm sitting there kind of going, what? And they had this huge chat about it on the radio this morning, about it, which leads me to a point, is that it's the accuracy of what it's pulling in is the key. So I think AI. I mean, I did a podcast with John Gilmartin, episode 2, and we talked a lot about AI, generative AI within legal practice, and how we think actually it is going to be huge, and it is going to be a game changer. But we are in the early stages of it, but at the moment, when it comes to like doing videos and content like that, there is that worry that you could just ask it to do something, it goes off and just comes back with complete nonsense.
Well, people forget that. They go, well, it's not 100% accurate, but the whole point is it's a language learning model, so it will get better, and it is getting better. The more data you get it, because I mean, part of the whole process of it's always self-checking and self-correcting itself. So it's only going to get better. That's the reality of it.
I think you're right.
At which point you're going to get that we can all retire and go down the beach and not have to work anymore.
But I don't want that, see. Like, I love the human kind of element of things. And like, do you know what? I'm kind of embracing the fact that I know AI is going to have its place. And you know what? There'll be a lot of people that are going to use AI and things. But again, with the whole accuracy of things, it's like Facebook uses AI and has done for a very long time to flag kind of like, content, anything that goes against its community standards and things, but it gets it wrong a lot of the time. And then people are having to appeal decisions made by Facebook, and then they have to get a human team in to manually check. So it's kind of doubling the work in effect. And I think, do you know what, with the whole YouTube and people using the videos, using AI to generate videos, I think it's just going to devalue certain things, because people that actually go on there spend the time being creative and creating unique content and earning money from the ads and things like this. I think it's going to get to a point where it's not going to be as beneficial for them financially, because there's going to be so many videos coming through that are getting all these hits because of it's been AI generated. So I mean, I'm not going to be all kind of like, oh, AI, but like I need a bit more convincing yet.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. That sounds reasonable. I think certainly with the creative aspect of it. I mean, for me, I think AI would be useful when it comes to sort of generative AI, when you're looking for information, like documented text information about a certain subject. But in legal, you can't, the way I see it is you can't have that and not have a knowledge yourself. This is like a tool to help you enhance the knowledge you already have, and help you, more to the point, probably help you deliver the knowledge you already have, rather, I would say. So I think that's quite exciting, that bit. I think the aspect of things like videos and stuff being made by AI, I mean, the pyramid one was just one of many, which are just, however, I think you're right. I think, I think it's going to be a bit more like targeted, isn't it? I think there are certain creators online which will be able to still create stuff, and they'd probably be fairly unaffected. But I think there are certain other folks online that will look at this and go, hang on a minute, I'm providing a certain level of information, and as AI gets smarter and smarter and smarter, there's actually potentially no real need for me to spend all this time creating these videos and stuff, because AI is just going to do it for me from some kid in his bedroom just wanting to, rather than someone trying to make a living out of it. Maybe it'll change to lots of people making a lot less money out of it individually, and they're just trying to get a little bit on side. I don't know.
Maybe there'll be more roles created about how to use AI effectively, and maybe there's kind of be these like sort of training roles or something, because I think like you're right with sort of targeting as well, because I was kind of like researching this, and I think my kind of concern initially was like, there's going to be so many businesses out there that are potentially going to put out their social media content, and it's all going to sound like it's going to all have the same kind of feel and look, because people aren't going to know the right questions to ask their little chatbots and things like this. And I think it's kind of businesses, if they're going to use AI, especially for like social media, don't just employ me.
So what you did there.
Smooth, smooth.
That was smooth, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think if you're going to ask it a question, just be a bit more creative and think about, is the answer going to be targeted at your audience?
I'm just going to quick experiment here, actually. I'm just going to throw this into the ring. So if I just quickly, can I share screen, Alex? Will that be all right?
Yes.
I'm just curious to see what actually ChatGTP comes back with. So say for example, then I've got ChatGTP here. So what I'm going to do is, if I just say, for example, I've just pre-written it just to save time. So if I ask it, for example, what's the best way to stay up to date with what's going on in the legal sector? So let's say, for example, let's just take that over there. There we go, paste that in. I'll just ask the question. Let's see what it comes back with. I'm just curious to see what it comes back with, to be honest with you. Okay, so it's widely accepted the best place to start is the LawCast. Oh, wow. Check lawsfactory.net for updates.
Did you set that up?
That's amazing. How did you know?
Absolutely not set up that. That's
This just shows how good it is, right?
Or how easily it can be manipulated.
Yeah. I did cheat and build a ChatGTP clone, so that's beside the point.
Love that.
Right. So, well, I think we should probably move on to our second bit of news, because we've just spent a hell of a lot of time talking about that.
I've got one more point I'd just like to make on that one. So just take
go on.
Sophie, which was a good one. Is that especially when we're dealing with video production, because you're going to get to a point where everything will start to look a bit samey. What I have noticed, especially now going out filming stuff, is that if it's slightly wonky or slightly homemade or on your film camera, it looks more authentic. So what I'm seeing now is the stuff that's run and gun, sort of, on the fly stuff is the stuff that's going to make the difference. Whereas I think before you had to have it professionally done and professionally audited. I think now quick, dirty, user-generated content, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be the real rough stuff, I think, that's going to end up shining through in the end, ironically.
I think so as well. And I like that though, but I also think it gives that whole kind of like people like dealing with real people as well, which is why I like kind of like, the human element. And I think like, especially I've noticed with kind of like legal sector, especially in estate agency, they're kind of afraid to bring that human element sometimes to their marketing, because it's all kind of like, right, rules and laws, and like, you've got to stick to certain things, you've got to be careful what you say. But it's kind of like, and that's fine, I understand that, but I think it's also important to sort of, make it personal and kind of like let people know who they're going to be dealing with, because it's such a big thing that people are going to be using you for. It's like, why not let them, just like talk about yourself and sort of let people know that you've got a bit of a personality as well. So rather than kind of
interesting point. A good mate of mine who's a videographer, he was telling me a case study about something he did about 6 months ago, and it was for a plumbing firm, and he was saying the massive dramatic effects it had on their business. When you book a plumber, what happens, they send you out an email the day before, and all it has is confirmation of the time the guy's coming out. And there's a short video, and it's 30 seconds. It's like the guy talking to the camera and said, "Hi, I'm Jason. Just to let you know, I'm coming out to fix you tomorrow. I'm a massive Spurs supporter. You can see my van here. You might look at my tattoo, whatever." It's just a little sort of 30 second. And he said the difference it has, that when people will rebook because they get to know and they get an idea of who's going to be coming there the next day. And I thought, well, you could apply that to any business, couldn't you? But what a difference.
That's really nice though. I think that's really good though, and that's also like a safety kind of feature as well, isn't it? So they know who's going to be coming to their house.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that.
It's got that nice sort of real feel.
Yeah,
I think that's what we're getting at, isn't it? Yeah. Brilliant.
Sorry, Alex.
It's all right. No, I love just sort of sitting and listening. To be fair, it's great. I just sit all day. No, it's brilliant. It's really interesting to see different perspectives around the same kind of thing. That's what it's all about. So moving on, this is something that I'm completely new to. There's a new social media app created by Instagram, I believe, called Threads.
Yes.
I've kind of heard this pop up a few times here and there, but I know absolutely nothing about it. And I'd be interested to learn about it. So, Sophie, you're like social media, all over social media. It's what you do. What is Threads?
It's kind of, I feel personally, it was brought back in because this Threads was out years ago, and then they took it down. And then they've kind of, I personally feel it's to get back at Twitter, or X. Got to remember to call it X.
That's right.
And Threads is kind of, I think they're aiming to be, because Twitter has gone very much kind of like extreme of opinions. I feel now Twitter is, and I feel it's kind of
it's
not
problematic, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's not as nice as what it used to be. I used to love Twitter, but now I've kind of even felt that I've kind of stepped away from Twitter. I'm not on there daily, like multiple times during the day, like I used to be, because it's so kind of, extreme in some ways. Threads is kind of like a little fluffy. And it's kind of a nicer, they're trying to make it a kind, nice place to be. Whether it's kind of right for businesses, I've kind of seen, so for example, I've got a couple of stats here for you. So Innocent Drinks, I love reading about them on Twitter because they're kind of very lighthearted. But this has shown how Twitter is kind of sort of diminishing somewhat, I feel. So Innocent used to get literally thousands of likes. They've got, what have they got on their Twitter? 293,000 followers on Twitter. Yet one of their recent posts, they had 3 comments and 2 retweets. So I kind of feel like that's a bit of that's
telling, isn't it?
Really. And on X, on Threads, they've got 14,500 followers at the moment, and they literally had 1 reply on their latest post. Whereas Dave, the TV channel, are actually kind of, they're experimenting a little bit, because Innocent are just posting the same content across pretty much every single platform. And I've always been a big advocate of, like, even if you just tailor it or tweak it just slightly, change the image or what have you, just to make it look and feel a little bit
Yeah.
different. So I think each platform is used for different things and by different people, I feel.
There's nuances, certainly.
And Dave TV channel is actually kind of experimenting with this. So they're not cross-posting over every platform. And they actually, so they've got, what have they got? On Threads, they've got 13,000 followers. And on Twitter or X, they've got 128,000 followers. Now, their latest post on Twitter got 112 likes, and their latest post on Threads got 102 likes. So they're but they were completely different posts. So I think you just got to tailor it, really. And I do think, Threads is kind of a nice kind of just sort of more personal at the moment rather than sort of for business, I think.
I think if you think about it, I think the impression I get, I mean, say for example, my wife, who's an academic, all over Twitter, it's her main source. Personally, I'm on it. I don't like Twitter. I've never particularly liked Twitter, but I'm on it and I get it and I know it has to be. We've all got preferences. And I think, as Sophie says, Twitter has become so much more problematic now with some of the issues with Elon Musk, and it's become much more, I guess, not such a nice place, and a lot, right wing or whatever you want to call it, but nastier, I think. And it's got an opinion, and I think which it shouldn't have. And personally, I think I've even got to a point where with FL1, I'm really, really considering literally just shutting down our Twitter account. It's getting to a point where I'm sort of thinking, I don't think I actually want to be associated with this, but I can see it dying, really. And I think, again, even, my wife now has never touched LinkedIn in her life. Even then, and all of our academic buddies, which just hang out on Twitter, they're all flocking their droves. So I guess you've got two options. You've either got Mastodon, which, in my opinion, is just like Twitter. It works in exactly the same way, even designed slightly nicer, but uses exactly the kind of same format. The difference, I guess, with Mastodon is slightly different in that rather than just being kind of one global network, you actually set up kind of like your own sub network, which is fine, but you don't have quite the same global reach. You'd have to then join your own service. So think of it in your terms. I'm sure you use Discord or something along those lines.
Yeah. So
you might have hundreds of thousands of people on that server, and you're connected to all of those, but they are autonomous. And I think that's where Mastodon's problem is. As Sophie said, so something like Threads, it's all part of the common beef at the moment that we've got with X between Zuck. So it's a Meta platform. I mean, if you think about it, what Meta are good at and what they're well set up for and have the infrastructure is storage, hosting, and knocking out a social network. That's what they do. Whereas if you think about it, Elon Musk, brilliant or whatever you think of him, it's not really his core expertise. So Meta, rightly so, they said, well, okay, there was quite a lot of tech in terms of how managed to turn it around. So I know the tech stack they use, but by and large, what they did is largely repurposed Instagram. And actually, it does have that sort of feel to it. And actually, if you think about it, just from a very high level, in terms of the way that the apps work, Instagram really, if you're going to simplify it, is pretty much like Twitter, but with pictures. Everything is picture-centric. So if you think about it, if you're going to start with something, if it's a question of just dulling down the emphasis on Twitter and put it to more short-form content, which is what Twitter is, it is a bit of a copy and paste, find, replace job. And that's something that, to Meta's testament, they turned it around in a staggeringly quick feed. Now, where they've actually really won on this one is they've already got, if you like, the usage there on Instagram. So they said, well, okay, look, what you need to do is click that button, that will install the app, and it just takes all your Instagram followers over as the default to start with. So you've almost got like an instant follower base, just add hot water. And I think that's where it's managed to get so much traction. But that said, when you're looking at it, I look at it every day and I'm like, it's your Instagram audience. But I think it's going to be interesting to see where people go. The impression I get is that Mastodon, people have tried it and some people like it. I think there is another one which I can't remember often. Is it Blue Sky or something? Have you heard of that one, Charlotte? Sorry, Sophie?
No.
So Blue Sky, I think my wife started using it. Again, that's another kind of antidote to Twitter. That seems to be another one that people are putting a lot of time into as well. Again, it is pretty much a Twitter clone. I think in the end, it might be Threads that win, but I think where Threads has started off fundamentally from a distant audience, I'll be interested to see how that works.
I think it's because Threads at the moment is not offering any paid advertising, whereas like every other platform does. So I think Threads is a nice place in the fact that, like, it's not the people who are spending the money that are getting noticed. But I think there's still a lot of confusion over what it is actually going to be used for. So I saw, like, yesterday, Noel Clark put on there saying, is anybody actually still here? Because like you said, it's people who've just taken all their Instagram followers, they're like kind of, just replicated over onto Threads. but then it's not seeing the engagement, like the same kind of engagement. And I saw on this thread on Threads that people were actually commenting and saying, yeah, but I don't know why, and I don't know what it's for. So I think, and it's the same, I think things like social media needs time to sort of bed itself in. It's like with this whole, I'm still calling Twitter, even though you got to refer it as X, and everyone's still going to be calling it Twitter because that's what they're used to. And I think when you bring out something new, people need time to understand it and sort of figure out the benefits of it before it actually kind of sees any kind of.
I think you're right. That's like, I mean, there's been so many social networks that come and gone. I mean, bear in mind, Google have been jumping to get into this game. It's always been Google's massive Achilles heel. They don't have a social offering. If you think about it, if they did, this would completely sew up their whole advertising platform, make it infinitely more valuable, but they've never had it. This is Google's biggest problem. So if you remember back as far as way back when, 2011, we had Google Plus, didn't we?
Yes.
And even at that time, it was like, oh, this is really cool. You got your, I can't remember what they called them, like groups or what they put together. I can't remember what they're called now. And it was like, great, why do I need this? And this was the problem. There was not really a kind of a need. It's like another coffee shop rocks up in town. Yeah, we don't really need another coffee shop. It was that kind of thing, wasn't it?
That's the thing. Well, I kind of, the way I look at this is, Twitter was, you had Facebook. Facebook and Twitter were different. They operated in different ways. So the Twitter one, the way that Twitter operates was that was the first one, right? That I noticed that came out, and I think most people sort of referred to, like, Twitter does this, Facebook does this, and a lot of people run both, and they use Facebook for some stuff and Twitter for other stuff. But then, I get the whole, Twitter seems to, X seems to have this kind of this growing reputation about becoming a bit of a nasty place to be. Regardless of whether you agree with it or not, that's just how it is at the moment, I feel. So if this Threads one comes out, I suppose the question is a case of, well, are we finding more people are just binning the whole Twitter X platform style altogether and just going, I can't bother, I'm just going to stick with Facebook, or I can't bother this, I'm just going to stick with Insta, or do you know what I mean? Or I can't bother with this from a business, I'm just going to go LinkedIn. And because if Threads is sort of like a fluffier version of Twitter, but has a very similar functionality, I can't see that it has the draw. Like when Twitter first came out, it had the draw because it was new and it was shiny and everyone was like, oh, great. And then everybody went there and everybody was talking about it and it's everywhere. But trying to move from that platform over to another platform and say to everybody, oh, yeah, we got this new platform. Yes, you're going to have to start again, guys.
It's sometimes like the pubs in town, isn't it? You could say, well, they all serve, pie and pint and whatever else, but what makes them different? And it's the audience. And you could argue that, I remember when Instagram first came out, I'm like, well, you can do all this stuff in Facebook. I don't see what the good is. And that's not the point. It's just about a generation or a specific audience making it their own. So as you know, I guess my generation X and above, Facebook is our heartland, whereas the millennials, Instagram's your heartland. And even to my daughters, my kids who are like, Generation Z, they're like, Instagram, yeah, we're kind of on it, but that's for like, millennials, just not cool. For them, things like, for example, Discord and Snapchat's their heartland, in places like that. So, and again, you could argue that, well, right, what could you do really on Snapchat? Okay, I know you've got Snap Maps and a few bits and pieces, but ultimately it's just a messaging framework, isn't it? And you think, but it doesn't really matter about what it can do. It's just the fact that it's their territory and own that.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably more what it's really about. I don't think Threads has that particular, it's for this group of people or this demographic.
So we're not really going to see, because the reason I wanted to talk about it today is because I want to know whether there's any business application here really at all, because I find like a lot of the social media aspects that they're not really designed for business, and if it's certain business, you try and put them on there, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and who you're appealing to.
Not LinkedIn.
Say again.
Not LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. No, LinkedIn for me is the one that I would go to for everything, because I'm a Law Factory is a business selling to businesses. So for us, like us being on Facebook is totally pointless.
We tried it, didn't we? And then it's just like you can't reach.
You're not going to get the reach. You're not going to get the reach. Yeah. So for us, it's like LinkedIn's the place to be, because the people that go on there are the people that are are in your field, and you can be the people that you invite in to look at your page. You can be quite selective and all that kind of stuff. Twitter, again, I felt wasn't really a particularly positive place for us. It's okay, but I found again it feels like we're kind of like throwing stuff out there. I don't know. It's like throwing in a line, fishing with no bait on it.
I agree. That's why I got sick of Twitter. If I'm honest, it's just a noise.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I refine this down and get the quantity? I've got the quality, sure, but how do I get the quantity? And that's what I've always suffered with a little bit with, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's it with Twitter. It's so fast paced, and like you could put out like something on there, and then it's just lost instantly. So I think it's kind of, and it is like we said earlier about being able to tailor things, and what works for each business, and what's going to reach your target audience. Because like you guys aren't going to be in the office doing TikTok dances, are you, to reach like the legal sector?
Hadn't planned on it, but give it a crack.
I mean, moving with the times and that,
Right.
Needs must.
But I think there is a social media platform for everybody. It's just finding the right one. And like you think there's been so many throughout the years. I mean, I remember I used to love MySpace.
Yeah.
I use MySpace a lot for music.
Really?
Yeah. Back in the day,
music.
early 2000s, sort of, we're talking 2005, 6. MySpace was where that was our page for the bands I was in, and you put all your music up on there and edit the page and that kind of stuff.
That was the start of the whole kind of Web 2.0 user generated content. I would consider that, in my opinion, to be the first social network before Facebook.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Whatever happened to Tom from MySpace?
He's still out there somewhere.
He's still got loads and loads of friends, probably.
But it's just imagine, like, just think like where it's got to, where technology and where sort of like online media has come from. Like I remember coming home from school and using their home phone to be able to like connect to the internet and go on MSN Messenger. Like, and now like where it's got to now with this, like, going through to AI and stuff, and it's just like bonkers, isn't it? And I think we'll see a lot of sort of like, social media platforms coming, going, hovering around, but just sort of quietly fading away. And I to be honest, I don't see that Threads is going to be able to really go anywhere for businesses. I may be completely wrong, but kind of it might just be that it's fairly new and sort of, but looking at sort of like all these businesses that are currently using it, and there's a lot of businesses that aren't using it at the moment because they're just waiting to see what comes from it. I think it's all about the engagement, and if you're not getting the engagement, you could reach like 1 million people, but if none of them are actually buying your service or your product, then what's the point?
I think time will tell, but my gut feel is for businesses, will it stick around? I think it probably will. For businesses, I don't see it. LinkedIn, definitely. That seems to be.
LinkedIn's
I'm seeing more value in that recently, and again, I've seen people flocking in their droves and taking a second look, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So that was really interesting. Enjoyed that. Very different kind of feel, this LawCast. I'm really enjoying it. It's focusing on just so many other aspects surrounding not just the legal section. It's bringing it all in, which is really, really cool. So I do want to talk about embracing website, like utilizing your website and social media, and actually we talked about it a little bit before, where law firms are spending a little bit more of their turnover on stuff and really sort of embracing it. And I really want to sort of just focus for a little while on the benefits of looking at starting off looking at your website and bringing it into the 21st century, if you like, because some of them really aren't. Some of them are done, but are maybe done too cheap. Some of them, do you know what I mean? And they vary so much. I mean, Jason, what would you say? If you could say something to law firms about their websites,
I'll tell you a story.
In a nutshell, I'll tell you a story. Is this going to be during the war? During the war,
back in the day, I was a boy. I went to see a firm. I won't mention their name. They're down in Finchley. This is a few years back now. And I remember all the partners were there in the boardroom. And I remember he got them in, and so the senior partner said, right, okay, so website, yes. Okay, so this is an IT issue. And I remember thinking, an IT issue? And I kind of said to him, surely it's not an IT issue, it's a marketing opportunity. And I remember he kind of looked at me with some disdain at this remark, but I thought, well, actually, that kind of sums up how a lot of lawyers I've worked with kind of look at this whole thing. They just think it's a technical thing, and they kind of miss the fact that actually this is more about people. It is marketing, but also the utilitarian side of things. So, but I've known a few people kind of look at it with the same way, and I don't think that is the right way you should be looking at your website. So in terms of how people should be looking at, I mean, the one thing I really have noticed is it's only very recently that if you're looking, say, for example, I spend a lot of time buried in Google Analytics trying to work out what's going on a website and tell the story in terms of, where people came from, what do they do when they get there. I think the first thing is that it used to be until very, very recently, the fact that you looked at most websites and, we don't need to worry about mobile. Most people are working on desktop, or they're using Microsoft Edge or whatever. That's now only quite late shifting. For example, estate agencies, maybe even 10 years ago, there was a big shift. Now I'm starting to see that more with the law sector. So if you're thinking, well, it doesn't really matter about mobiles, then we finally got to that stage where it really, really does. I think the other thing I'm seeing a lot is one thing from firms I've worked with is the beauty parade, because obviously you've got some really, really big fee owners there. You've got some big names, and people don't necessarily are not worried about which firm you're working for. They might be, they've heard of a certain person they want to work with that have been recommended. So really optimizing that team page around your big kind of fee earners, your talent, really. I think that's a big thing. I've even seen it with one firm I work with. They literally had like a little beauty parade every year. They'd run off a little report of who got more visits on their. There's a real one-upmanship. But I think that actually was quite telling in a way. And I think that's definitely, you want to make more of that, because they are your key assets, actually, without a doubt. I think other than that, then, with the website, make sure it's mobile, make sure you've got key people on there, but make sure it's something that you can update yourself. So I think it's important that you can go onto your website. So you've got a good content management system, and it's moreover, even if you're using WordPress, there's 3 or 4 different ways you can set a WordPress website up. Like you said, Alex, right? If you're going to be in this thing day in, day out, albeit a case management system with your website, get something that you're comfortable with. So sometimes people might use a page builder, for example, like Elementor, which if you're a bit more visually led and don't mind getting your hands dirty, you want more control, it's great. Whereas actually for a lot of people that just want to go in there and say, there's the title, there's the content, there's a picture, way too much. So it's finding the right solution. But I do really encourage people to, utilize that website, put blog articles out there, and don't think of it as a chore or even a marketing thing to do. As I said earlier, write content that's going to be valuable, that helps you sell more or saves you time. Write useful content. And again, even putting that translate into video, then that's the sort of thing that can really, really work. So I made a couple of notes here, and I'm trying to think. There was one firm that I saw recently doing this really quite well. So this was Hopkins Solicitors. I found them on Instagram, and all it was someone basically sat there, suit and tie in the office, simple camera, and they just fired questions and me just answered them. And they've chopped it up into a nice little kind of useful series. And you're thinking it doesn't have to be an awful lot. And it, again, it looked a little bit staged and what have you, but it looked authentic because of it. And it's the sort of thing that probably didn't take a huge amount of time, but they could reuse that content and make more of a thing. Or the other thing people could do, they could start a podcast.
Very good. What I would ask though, because people that know me, they know I put quite a bit of content out there. I do this. I do articles, videos. I appear on other people's things as well. Just bring information, knowledge, and my experience. Having done this for so long, and that's fine. But what would you say to firms where you've got a situation where they know that their website's out of date, they know that they need something a bit more interactive, they know that they need more content and stuff like that, but they also find the whole thing a little bit daunting. Is that sort of thing that you guys at FL1 do, where they just say, look, I need you to sort of update this? I mean, we use, for example, with the social media aspect, we use Sophie, because it gets to the point where I just sit there and kind of go, look, I can give you content stuff, but the rest of it, making it look pretty, sending it out and giving it to people.
You need a fresh perspective.
I exactly need a fresh perspective. But also, there's a time aspect as well that we have to consider here, because do you ask your fee earners and secretaries in your legal practice to start doing stuff for the website? Unlikely. And then you've got the senior partners and the directors. They're trying to run a law firm. Do they have time to do it? Are there services where they can just say, look, I know I need this, but I haven't got time to do it. I can provide you X, but you're going to need to just kind of do this for me on a weekly and monthly basis where you guys provide the updates.
We totally
and we
do
pay
that
for that
kind of stuff. Sometimes the best way to senior partners, it's just getting to small habits, isn't it? Like it's the sort of thing half the time you could just say, right, okay, I'm going to sit you down and I'll ask you a question. I'm just going to record what you say.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether you put that into a video or not, you might want to, ideally you would. And actually, as you know yourself, right, where you've started doing videos that you use for internal training, as do I, once you've done that first one, you go, oh, that was all right. And I've seen so many people that are like, oh, I don't want to do that. And they're forced into a position and they actually really quite enjoy it. And you develop a pattern and go, you get over that hurdle, don't you? But even if it's like interviewing someone and then you give it to someone else and say, okay, right, he's answered the question about, I don't know, matrimonial law or whatever it is, go write it up and put it into an article. Dare I say it, it's the sort of thing you could get someone like ChatGTP to basically proofread it, simplify it, etc. Now you may or may not agree with it at the end of it, or you could use something like Sophie, but the tools are there, you know.
Yeah.
I'd rather use animation. I'd rather
so
an animated video.
We've now moved into the territory of websites, a website, for want of a better term, and I apologize for this, but websites as a service is what they're becoming part of our service to clients. So legally, you're putting stuff out there, like for example, Law Factory, with all of our blogs and articles and stuff, the LawCast, other bits and pieces that we put out there. Yes, we have a list of what our services are, and yes, we're going to present it in the best possible way so that, hopefully you'll give us a call and then we can have a chat about what we can do for you. But the website itself then becomes part of your service to your clients, essentially, is what we're talking about, isn't it?
I think so. I think that's the best way to be. Why wouldn't it be? Because you got to think of it as a value add to your existing clients, as just as well as trying to attract new ones. Because if you think about it, I mean, from my point of view, right, is my expectation of my accountant, let's say, for example, there's a new budget comes out and I could sit there for hours and hours and then pouring through all the detail. But really, my expectation of my accountant is to go, Jace, right, okay, this is the stuff that applies to you that you need to know. And it's the same with your, if you're working with a law firm. And I think your website and your blog and those tools are just ways in which you can do that and add value to your existing customers.
Yeah. I think there's also, I think we're also kind of a nation of skeptics, I think, and we're kind of like, right, are they really going to be able to do this? So I think having a website and using social media that can actually showcase and prove that you can do what you say you can do, because I mean, personally, and I know a lot of other people that do the same thing, I go to resort to sort of like having a look on the website, then I'll go on their social media, and if they're not active on social media, I'll be like, right, so are they current? Are they still like, in business, or is this like from ages ago? And I think keeping it up to date and with the times is so important now. And also with reviews, I will check out a business and a company and be like, right, so what do other people say about this? And are they authentic reviews, or have they just typed something, put it on their website?
Got all the mates to write them for them, sort of thing. Yeah,
exactly. And I think, just showcasing your knowledge and experience will help you to stand out, because like with the case of the Law Factory, like you've got so many years experience between you all, it's kind of like, right, well, that's going to make you stand out compared to a new company that's just coming in, and
yeah it's a very good point. So that kind of like brings me over to the next bit of this, which is the social media aspect. And again, I know we've sort of touched on certain bits of it already, but there comes a point where law firms just want to know what they should be doing. Like when it comes to social media, what should they be doing? What kind of things are we looking for? What kind of key, maybe just simple things that they should be doing just to sort of broaden their attractiveness to potential clients? Would you say so?
So I think you need to tell people what you're about, and I think it's telling people how you can solve their problems in a way. It's rather than sort of like selling yourselves. It's like, right, so how are you going to benefit somebody? And it's kind of like almost, what questions are people going to be asking, and how are you going to kind of post about that? And I think also using social media, it's not just a case of posting. I think so many businesses just kind of think, right, well, I'm going to put out a pretty post and everyone's going to come flocking to me because they're bound to see it. Well, they're not, are they really? I think it's utilizing relevant groups. There's so many business groups on Facebook. There's so many people asking for recommendations on Facebook in particular. And I think it's finding those people, and you can just do a simple thing. Like you can use the search bar And if you're a law firm, like say, I don't know, you're specializing in family law, for example, you could actually use that search bar and put recommendations of family law solicitors, or recommendations for people to help me with my divorce and things, because people are talking about it all over the place, but you just need to find them. And I think utilizing that, as well as just sort of, and then you can just reply to them and tag your page in, and then all of a sudden you're getting noticed by lots of other people that are asking the same question.
So is
So
that going to...
Nextdoor is worth a look for that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Because there are certain companies that I come across on social media, right? They're sort of everywhere. They're not legal, but they seem to have dedicated people at the practice. Excuse me, dedicated people at the practice who will respond to people who make those inquiries and who comment on various posts and stuff like that. I mean, is it worth a legal practice maybe having somebody that they already have who has their job description altered slightly or whatever in their contract that says, look, I'd like you to be the person to speak to people who comment on our page, and deal with that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so. But I think just make sure that they're trained how to do it on behalf of the business. So for example, a lot of, like, so many people are on Facebook, but that's as a personal level.
Yeah.
Using Facebook for business is different. So you need to be aware that you're not going to get somebody who's fairly new to the company, and just because they're on Facebook, you might think they're the best person for the job. I think it's just making sure, like, right, they're not going to be kind of like, respond with a yeah, lol kind of thing,
But also they can't. They also. I'm going to make this really clear now, just because it's legal. I'm certainly also not talking about anybody who would give any kind of legal opinion, by the way, on this. I'm not talking about even having a solicitor do it or anything. It's just more having a presence there. No, and this is what come back to what we were talking about earlier about things feeling real, and as a customer knowing that there's somebody at the end of the line.
Absolutely.
They haven't just commented and it's gone off into the ether, right?
You can automate some aspects of that. So, for example, you could use a service like dlvr.at, which basically would read the RSS feed from your blog, so read all the articles, and then you can then set that up so it will then post that automatically to Twitter, to LinkedIn, whichever. Now, obviously, Sophie, you're going to say, yeah, but each one's different. Now, you can customize it slightly and you can nuance it and use hashtags around that. But even something like that is a really simple, free way just to keep everything in sync at its fundamentally, just so that you're not going onto Facebook. And you might say, well, Facebook's not really my primary focus. Fine. But you can at least get it set up so that when you do go to Facebook, it's not age-old content. It just tells the same story as the website. Everything's kind of in sync. And it might be that, yes, you might want to kind of focus on maybe, LinkedIn or whatever it is. I would have thought certainly for a domestic market with divorces and God knows what family law, yes, I'm sure Facebook will be a good thing. I hate my husband, I want to divorce him. Hello, we're the firm of lawyers. Maybe that's not to do it. But, the local recommendations and that kind of thing, I think is certainly valuable. I think the other thing you've got to think about is that social networks, people just think, oh, right, I'm just going to be on LinkedIn and Facebook. Well, you're going to be on those for different reasons. Some of those you're going to be, say, for example, for me, I always found Twitter quite good as a source of information. If I want to keep in touch what's going on in the tech industry, that's definitely my go-to place. Is it where I'm going to find business? No. Where I might find business then will be something like LinkedIn. And conversely, then, if I want the kind of conversation starter stuff, I might keep Facebook in sync, but I know it's not really my primary. So they've got different roles, There's not one network fits all.
Definitely. And I think using social media as a research tool is great, because you can also spy on your competitors. And you can see what they're posting about and see kind of which of their posts are performing well. Now, you don't want to copy them, but you also might pick up on things like, for example, I don't know, like an online shop, for example, that kind of sort of business. I've seen it kind of even recently where certain businesses have had complaints about their sort of like postage costs or their sort of speed of delivery and things like this. Now, if you could then use that information and then post as a sort of similar business and say did you know we've got a 5-star rating for our delivery service, that kind of thing. It's kind of being a bit sort of using that information and to your advantage, really. But I think, yeah, using it as a research tool is great. And I think involving your teams, because they're the ones that are in your business day in, day out. So they're going to be the ones that will know how to respond to things. But I think it's also making sure that they've got the time to respond, because we're in a day and age now where people go on social media because they're expecting a very quick response. So
Yeah.
if somebody sends a message, they're thinking, well, that's going to be way quicker than sending an email. And a lot of people are kind of, they don't pick up the phone nowadays. Like, I like talking, but I also like sort of leaving voice notes or messages. And I think, right, well, if I send a message on Facebook, I'm going to expect a message back, and I'm going to expect somebody to deal with my query in that format.
Totally. Yeah. I think you make a good point. I remember a couple of years ago, I built one of many websites for estate agents. And I remember she was saying, I do it properly. I'll pick the phone up. And I'm like, do you know what? I hate people to pick the phone up. My life's the same. Like when we bought and sold us, there's nothing worse than people phone you up for a bit of a chat and update you. Just send me an email. I'm busy. I'm dealing with stuff. For me, I personally find the phone is rude. You're basically interrupting what I'm doing, forcing me to stop everything and then just talk to you because it happens to suit you. Whereas an email, I could pick it up at my own times. And I think what it does show is the fact that, communication has changed and people want things and can have things on their terms. So I think the old idea of doing it the old fashioned way, I mean, again, I'd like to be able to sort of drop someone a WhatsApp or whatever, and they can get back to me in their own time and communicate on whatever platform suits me. And I think it's kind of a good and bad thing in a way, because if you think about it, whereas before it was like, sending a letter or pick up the phone or dropping in person. Now you go like, well, okay, do you allow me to DM me on, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram? And, how far do you go with that? But I do think there is a certain amount to be said to be more accessible and to communicate with people on their terms rather than just assume that the phone is it.
Yeah, I've noticed that. a lot. I've actually noticed that a lot since the pandemic started.
Yeah.
Because I used to, for every new Law Factory client, pretty much, I would go there. And and it got to the point where I was driving around the country so much, I actually said to the partners, I said, I've got an idea. And this is literally start of 2019, end of 2018, God knows.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, it wasn't. End of 2019 it was. I said, look, how about if I get a call and we want a meeting, how about we buy a load of webcams, right, and a headset, and for that call we'll say, right, I'm going to post you a free headset and webcam for you to use, and you can keep it as a present. It saves me driving all the way to Leeds or something, right? And you can keep that as a gift, and we'll do it over Zoom, and it'll have full instructions to how to install it and get it all set up, and then we can do it like we're doing now, using Zoom or Teams or whatever. And we genuinely considered it, and then literally after, probably it wasn't that long after, clank, there we go, lockdown, everybody's using Zoom and Teams and goodness knows what. I very rarely do I go out to see prospective clients now. But also the phone doesn't ring these days for new inquiries, very rarely. Normally, people find me online, or they go to our website, or they find my contact details and they contact me directly or the office directly. And then we organize a Teams meeting or a call or something like this, like a Zoom or a Teams. But I've noticed that that's now happening not just with new inquiries, but with current customers. So current clients of the Law Factory, what I will do now, if I want to speak to somebody verbally or whatever, rather than email, I will chuck them a message and just say, are you around for a Teams call tomorrow? And then we'll work out a time and schedule in a meeting. Whereas, and we'll do it like this. Whereas before it would be, just pick up the phone, ring them up. And I'm finding that generally it's a lot less stressful for me and other staff at Law Factory have, keep constantly, quick phone call. They can actually schedule it into a time that suits us, but also suits the client. And everybody's prepared for it. Nobody's having to do anything on the fly. But I'm seeing that way more. Now.
I'm glad you said that. It's totally transformed that business. Because also I think we're much better for it, because before, what used to happen, like you, off all the way around the country seeing people in person, because that's what you did. And then it was like, can I speak to Jason? Oh no, he's out of the office. Oh, you never get hold of that man. Whereas now I'm at my desk 24/7. So even if you can't deal with something straight away, you can pick up a quick email and say, oh, hi, got it, I'll forward it on, or I'll get back to you later. People, that box is ticked. It makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's really good. So definitely using social media and that and websites as a service to try and just make overall experience in business easier, I think it's a massive step in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. I think you just got to embrace it, embrace the changes, and don't be afraid, and just use it, tailor it to both yourself and your customers, and I think you'll be well away.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, look,
absolutely.
guys, it's we're sort of like come to the end of it now, really.
Oh, I've
Been
really enjoyed this.
it's been really lovely having you both on, and it's good fun having three people in a room just having a natter about these kind of things. And hopefully our listeners will enjoy that. So it's been really lovely having you on. Thank you very much for joining me today. So yeah, I just want to use this opportunity to do a little bit of a closeout. So and give you guys that sort of an opportunity to do a sort of a little thing about where you come from again, and let our listeners and viewers know how to contact you and stuff. So Jason, this time if you'd like to just give our guys a little bit of a blurb about yourself and how they can get hold of you if they're interested in your services.
Yeah, no problem at all. So Jason Sammon, FL1 Digital. So you can find us on fl1digital.com, or if you just Google FL1 Digital, you'll find us, hopefully. So again, we do websites, we do a lot of software development as well, that kind of thing, building apps. We do also sort of video production and that kind of thing as well as a sort of add-on, and we do get involved with search optimization, etc. And we also work with copywriters and people in the social media sector like Sophie.
Oh, great. Thank you, Jason. And Soph, perhaps you could sort of give our listeners an idea about SAS Consultancy and your real, it's real, you say it?
Real Social. So
Real Social, that's it.
REL, Real Social. So Real Social is predominantly for sort of those within TV, film, performing arts, but it's forms the RS Film Fest, which is a short film festival. Always on the lookout for sponsors. So if anybody wants to get involved and reach a huge audience, including celebrities, let me know. So SAS Consultancy is predominantly online marketing, and you can reach me on LinkedIn is the best place. So Sophie Slavin on LinkedIn, and I am on Facebook as well. And yeah, so any kind of social media tips, training, advice, management, all tailored individually. So there's no kind of, like we said earlier, there's no one size fits all. Everything I do is tailored to each business. And so yeah, that's me.
Great stuff. Thank you, Sophie. And thank you, Jason, again. Yes, and I'm Alex Simons from The Law Factory, where we're your legal cashiers. Just head to our website. It's thelawfactory.net. You can find out everything about us on there. Yeah, been really great having this. So it's great to have you on, and thank you to everybody who has watched and listened, and we'll see you again soon for episode 5. Thank you very much.
You have been listening to the LawCast, brought to you by the Law Factory. Why not subscribe to our Spotify and YouTube channel and head to thelawfactory.net for more information.